1 year and counting. More than 200 girls still missing from a boarding school in Chibok, northeastern Nigeria. Ceremonies marking the first anniversary of their abduction by the Islamist radicals of Boko Haram have been taking place. Some of the girls have escaped, most, though, still missing. Nigeria's president-elect vows to keep up the search, but Muhammadu Buhari, perhaps sobered by his predecessor's unfulfilled pledges, refuses to promise success. That despite stepped-up efforts to take on Boko Haram, with most notably the help of neighboring states, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. We'll look at the fight and at the actual upshot of that Bring Back Our Girls campaign that went viral around the world. We know those girls aren't free and that Boko Haram is still strong, but has it put Nigeria's poorest region on the map? What's the plan to support that area and to counter the jihadist anti-education message of the captors of those girls? Today in the France 24 debate, Bring Back Our Girls, 1 year gone. With us from the Nigerian capital, we're joined by Enoch Mark, whose eldest daughter and a niece are among those who went missing. Thanks for joining us. We'll be speaking with you in a moment. First, though, let's say hello to our panelists here on set. Julia Wono of Internet Without Borders, Michael Kirtley of the World Memory Film Project, and we're also with former UN General Dominique Trinquant. The World This Week, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24Debate. And it's obviously not just Chibok. In total, 800,000 children displaced by the fighting in northeastern Nigeria. That's according to new figures put out by UNICEF, which in 4 years tallies up to 300 schools damaged or destroyed, hundreds of teachers and students killed. But it's, again, that startling abduction of 276 girls, 219 of whom are still missing. That's what caught the world's attention 1 year ago. Claire Williams has more.
12 months on, and the Bring Back Our Girls support group is still praying for good news. They held a silent march in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, to call for the missing schoolgirls' safe return.
When your voice is taken from you, which is what the terrorists have done to our daughters, when your voice is taken,
on April 14th, 2014, Islamists broke into a boarding school in Chibok in Nigeria's restive northeastern Borno state. They kidnapped 276 girls aged between 12 and 17. 57 managed to escape. Within weeks of the abduction, Boko Haram's leader, pictured here, claimed responsibility. He said he was planning to sell the schoolgirls as slave brides. Boko Haram literally means Western education is forbidden. The sister of one of the Chibok schoolgirls says she spoke to her sister the night before she was kidnapped.
The last time I've made call to her, she told me that she came to my house after she wrote her paper. Before we used to eat together, but now she's no more.
Not without our daughters. The kidnapping prompted an outcry in and outside Nigeria. Politicians, the US First Lady, actors and Nobel Peace Prize winner Malala Yousafzai rallied around the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, but the whereabouts of 219 girls are still unknown. That's despite the fact a regional African force has recently had some success in recapturing towns from Boko Haram.
All right, let's cross to the Nigerian capital and speak with Pastor Enoch Mark. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Your 20-year-old daughter, Monica, your 18-year-old niece, Sarah, they're among those girls. When you think back 1 year ago, what do you recall about that night in relation to where we are today? All right, we seem to have lost the connection with Abuja. We'll try to get a hold there of Enoch Mark. Julia Wono, this first anniversary, we saw turn out a bit sparse. in many places.
Yes, it did turn out a bit, well, I mean, the mobilization in some parts of the world has been, I must say, quite disappointing. But whose fault is it? I mean, we have to remember that despite the international outcry last year, the efforts made by the Nigerian government of the time, so good luck Jonathan's government, have been very scarce. We have to be honest and recognize that. I will make a very horrible comparison. When there were a French family, when a French family was abducted in northern Cameroon, we remember all the efforts that were put in place by Cameroon and even the Nigerian government at that time to solve, I mean, to free these people. And we are unable to free 219 young girls who have been, I mean, who have been seen being kidnapped. And that's, for me, it's a failure, and it's a proof that finally the lives of Black women or Black young girls, African young girls, have no value. And that's very sad to admit. And in my opinion, it's also the proof that one of the main the rallies that have been going on, and especially in Nigeria, are a proof that citizens and people are tired that our powers don't consider our lives, and specifically the lives of female citizens. And I think that's, it's disappointing, but at the same time, it gives a lot of hope for the future.
Michael Kirtley, do you agree that with that assessment of perhaps it's a low-key reaction worldwide?
Well, first of all, our hearts have to go out to the girls themselves who were kidnapped into their families. I mean, keeping in mind that, as Julie was just evoking, I mean, I think there's a kind of an attitude that Africans don't suffer the same way that we do, in a certain way. And therefore, we're able to turn our eyes away from them. But the problem is also equally true that the Nigerian government seems to act the same way towards the people that are suffering in northern Nigeria. So we have a hiatus that creates today, 1 year afterwards. Is anybody even looking? I mean, of course, you have France 24 and CNN and many other places that say it's 1 year after the Chibok abductions. But I have to ask myself, does the world really care about these girls anymore? I mean, even at the time, I remember we were together.
But hang on, Michael, they care enough so that you've had, the military backing that's been offered up by major world powers. You have troops from neighboring states intervening. We're talking about it here.
I think that I'm not. Of course, I'm very concerned, and I'm even more concerned after having read the editorial of General Buhari, President-elect Buhari, in the New York Times, that there's lots of posturing. He himself, in that editorial, was very strong about two things: about eradicating Boko Haram and about trying to get back these girls. But I think the one thing that was missing is the fact that 2,000 other girls have been kidnapped in the period that since there was the abduction in Chibok. There's a sense that it's, from my impression, that there's a lot of PR going on. There's a lot of hand wringing that's going on, and I think it's explainable. I think that there's a feeling that the Niger government is just as obscure in their motivations up to now as Boko Haram is obscure in their motivations. But I feel that if there were people wanting to get back these girls, there would be so much more international pressure on Nigeria than there is today. I don't see that international pressure on Nigeria. In other words, is Nigeria's image, both inward and outward, at stake? And it seems to me that they don't care inside Nigeria. So where is the pressure going to come from?
Dominique Trinquant?
I don't really agree with what has been said. First, okay, 200 girls disappeared a year ago. And you rightly say not only 200, but probably 2,000 during the year. I don't think that people don't care about that, but the first concern with that problem is the government of Nigeria. And the people, I think, are a bit fed up by the fact that for the last year, the government of Nigeria has done nothing. And at the end, 3 major countries surrounding Borno province had to intervene inside Nigeria because the government of Nigeria, and just remember that Nigeria is probably the richest country in Africa, is not able to solve the problem. And so Niger, Chad, and Cameroon were forced to go into, at least for Chad and Niger, to go into Borno in order to solve the problem that the army and the government of Nigeria was not able to do it. Now we've got a new government. Many people say, new governments, these presidents and the governors have been elected probably not for what they are, but because of the president, Goodluck Jonathan, who did nothing. So hopefully they will do something. And I'm not saying that because they've just been elected, they will not do what they are saying.
All right,
I expect that they will do it.
Let's look at this. Let's roll back the clock a second. First of all, reaction here from Lukuman on Twitter. Let's keep hope and remind our government that our Chibok girls are still missing. It's their responsibility to bring them back. Now, let's wind the clock back to last year. 1 month after the abduction, Nigeria's president and his counterparts in the region, they were in Paris. The likes of France, the UK, US, and China, all pledging military assistance in the fight against Boko Haram. At the time, the government was confident it had located the girls and promised to bring them back within a month. Nigeria's outgoing president speaking last May in Davos.
I believe that the kidnap of these girls will be the beginning of end of terror in Nigeria.
All right, that was the statement he made. Now, we've seen, of course, that the fighting intensified after that. And some claim that the reason that you saw more kidnappings was a greater sign of desperation. That's one argument that was put forth. Yes. What's your reaction what was your reaction at the time when you saw this summit that took place in Paris, when you heard remarks like that?
I think the summit in Paris was exactly on the line what is criticized now. Everybody gather together and say, there is a problem, please, Nigeria, do something, and we will help you, and gather other countries to do it. But it was very difficult to say just one point, coordination between Nigeria, between Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and UK, US, France was very difficult. Because inside Nigeria, the people were not putting in place what is necessary for coordination. This famous force has to be commanded by a Nigerian officer who was never there. And so at the end, Chad, Niger, because Niger was directly attacked, and Chad, because it's very close to his border. Chad was not attacked, but it was the line of logistic line between Douala and N'Djamena, which was threatened. So that's why Chad attacked. And because Chad, Niger, and Cameroon decided to attack in Niger, suddenly things started to change. But on the Nigerian side, nothing happened.
Well, I think one of the reasons why the counterattack against terrorist group Boko Haram has not been efficient is precisely because we have been thinking that it's only the responsibility of the Nigerian government. With that, I completely disagree. I mean, we're talking about a zone where the concept of borders is very vague in some parts. And we are talking of a zone where these groups have been traveling around for some time now, getting weapons from we don't even know how and where. So, in my opinion, pointing the finger only at the Nigerian government is kind of, I'm sorry, but it misses the point. It's a regional, in my opinion, it's really a regional problem, and it should be treated as a regional problem.
But okay, but how about now? Is it being addressed now?
Well, as General Trinquant just highlighted, well, Chadian forces had to go to Borno to force the Nigerian borders and also the Cameroonian ones. So we could say that, yes, it has become a regional problem and solution, but the solution is only military, and I think that's also where we are all missing the point. The problem with Boko Haram has to go beyond only the military approach.
All right, good luck, Jonathan's successor at the one who won at the last election, Muhammadu Buhari, putting out a statement for the first anniversary of their abduction. General Buhari downplaying hopes in that statement. He said, "We do not know if the Chibok girls can be rescued. Their whereabouts remain unknown. As much as I wish to, I cannot promise that we can find them." And earlier, speaking to our correspondent, Anna Cunningham, she was saying the reaction was very positive to that statement. Finally, someone at least being honest about it, Michael.
Well, I think that's very true. I mean, President-elect Buhari seems to be taking a very proactive stance in terms of what his plans are. And we can only try to believe him, of course. But I think that in speaking to what Julie was just speaking about the regional aspect of things, and also to your question about whether people care, there seems to be, yes, a particular effort to think about these girls, but these girls are just a small symptom of a very, very big problem, where today we have 1.5 million people that are displaced, half of them children. In other words, I think that it is a world problem. If you look at Boko Haram in similar vein to the way you look at ISIS or to other terrorist groups around the world, at some point people have to address what happens after the shiny stuff goes away. We somehow rescue 20 to 30 of these girls. Probably that's all that we will find at some point. We declare it a kind of a victory, and then Borno State, northern Nigeria, southern Niger, southern Chad, western Cameroon, where are they left? Where is the real effort to resolve the problem?
We'll pick up on that point when we come back, because it's an important one. We're talking about the poorest region of Nigeria. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.